It's the cruise ship navigating its way through a COVID outbreak. More than 100 people on board the Coral Princess have so far tested positive. Questions are being raised over the COVID safety protocols, but most passengers are saying they want to keep cruising.
A shock that it did spread so much, so quickly.
My choice to get on, so I said, thanks very much, I'm going.
I think they're doing everything they can to make sure we're all safe.
It spread far and wide, didn't it? So let's hope it doesn't happen again.
Cruise ships are back, and so are COVID outbreaks. But 2 years on, devoted cruisers are prepared to get on with the adventure and the virus. The Coral Princess docked in Eden this morning on the New South Wales south coast, with more than 100 staff and passengers infected with the virus and isolating.
Before we got on, they sent a text saying they got COVID, the crew's got the COVID. If you don't want to get on, let us know when you get your money back. Simple.
Steve Smith boarded the ship in Brisbane and doesn't regret it.
They told us last night before we got to Eden from the New South Wales health officer that we had to do a rat test this morning before we got off. And as long as you were tested negative, you get off the ship.
The outbreak is mainly affecting crew who won't be allowed off.
I reckon they're doing a good job. They're doing the best they can, right? Like, half it, 40% of the crew are down with COVID. No wonder they're short-staffed.
Welcome to all of our wonderful visitors, including those from the Coral Princess.
Eric, who owns a local antique shop in Eden, is happy to have customers no matter where they come from.
A cruise ship for us as a business brings in potentially a week's worth of trade on a single day. And it's just a matter of getting back to what we call the new norm.
Faith Bulmer's father-in-law is isolating at home after contracting the virus on board the Coral Princess last week.
He carried out the rest of the cruise. They kept him on board until Sunday. Prior to that, they had discussed medevacing him off the ship to a nearby hospital. And how are you feeling with it all now?
Yeah, no, I've come on certainly today's the best of the 5 days.
From what we were told, there were quite a few people on board that were showing symptoms, coughing, runny noses. There wasn't a lot of people visibly sanitising around. Areas where there were mandated masks, like the theatre, staff weren't wearing masks, a lot of patrons weren't wearing masks, it just wasn't policed.
Dee and Dale were on the same cruise, but say they had a wonderful time.
On the day we were disembarking, a lady that we were sitting next to, she was saying, "Oh, did you hear there's a lot of COVID on the ship?" And I went, I had no idea. She said, "Oh, people have been isolating in the cabin."
They feel the COVID safety protocols in place are adequate.
Initially, you have to prove with documentation that you're double vaxxed and you have your booster shot. You also have to do either a PCR or a rat test before you get on the ship, and you have to provide evidence of that.
And even in the shows, they have they call it a slip and sip. So you're allowed to have a drink when you're watching the show, but you're allowed to slip your mask down, have a sip, but then you had to put your mask back up. So that was mandatory, and they kept putting announcements over the thing about that.
As fate would have it, the Coral Princess is the sister ship to the Ruby Princess. And for travellers who survived that debacle, there is a feeling of deja vu. But this time round, the cruise industry and health authorities say they're prepared. So for cruise lovers, is this now almost to be expected?
It worries me that it's all happening again. I hope it's not. I hope they do a lot better than they did with us, like getting us off the ship and sending us home.
Army veteran Tony Horden was on the COVID-stricken Ruby Princess in 2020, and today's news brought back bad memories.
Most of my group, which was a reunion group, an Army reunion group, they got it. There was, I think, 4 out of 32 that didn't. And as you probably know, one of our group passed away from the COVID, so it's pretty raw in our mind.
Janet Lieben was one of 28 people who died after that journey. Tony and most of his mates got sick, so he hopes history doesn't repeat.
I don't think anyone should be let off the ship, crew or passengers, and passengers might hate me for that, but I think they've got to stay there till they've got a negative, and I think that's the only way to do it.
Will you be watching closely to see what happens with this?
Very much so, yeah. Yeah, I just don't want to see a repeat of what happened with us.
How do you feel about cruising now?
That's a great question, because we were only talking about this the other day. But yeah, I'd probably go on another cruise.
He is quite the avid cruiser. I don't think he will be back on another cruise ship for a little while now, though.
I don't know what ship they were on, but it definitely wasn't the Cruise from Hell. We had the most amazing time.